Welcome to Saturday's Warrior. It's official. College football is back. Yes, we already had week 0, and there's still a few more games to wrap up week 1, but Saturday of week 1 is in the books. And even though it's the first week, a lot of tune-up games, not a lot of compelling matchups, there was still some wild action this weekend. Unfortunately, most of it came at the expense of Big 12 teams. So this year, I am going to do these reaction videos. I'm going to try to get them in all the time after BYU games and touch upon the action in the Big 12 and other things across college football. But I'm East Coast. I love having these late games because I can watch them. There's no interruptions. I'm not expected to be anywhere else, and I can just sit and watch my game in peace. However, it also means that it's like 2 a.m. for me, and so I'm recording pretty late. But I also want to have the reaction videos up right away. So that's what it's going to take. But also, I hate waiting till Monday to get my videos and podcasts and get all, and have all of Sunday to sit on it. So I wanted to get these up so that people have something to kind of hold them over till Monday when all the other reaction content comes out. So let's first hit up BYU, then I'll quickly touch upon some of the other action that we had. But so my thoughts, I mean, this is, the same as everybody that's been that watched the BYU game. But first of all, it was just amazing how, in not a great way, that the defense, who was the big question mark, that everyone felt like the offense was going to be the strong point of the team, that the defense did well, the offense struggled, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. I mean, they have the talent there, but they just looked out of sorts. And some of that you could chalk up to them having a more limited place, calls and scheme, not wanting to show their hand too much for later in the season. And I suppose that could be part of it, but that does not account for some of the other things I saw. Slovis was inconsistent. He made some really tight throws, but he also had to throw it away a lot, which probably speaks more to the O-line, which was another issue. But he also had some other throws that just were not on. And so I don't know. And then the wide receivers, you can't often really see a lot of what happens in out where they're, with their routes and stuff. But what I did notice is that there wasn't a lot of great blocking. And so when they tried to do some of the pass out and have a screen, they were just getting blown up. And I feel like that's something that BYU wide receivers have been good at in recent years, and has really opened up a lot of options with the place game, especially when you're having trouble getting, the downfield pass or getting the run going. It's a way to open things up. And that just, that's something that they're really going to have to work on. And I can't believe this O-line, as big as they were, could not open up bigger holes for the running backs. And even though Martin was able to get something going and find something to work later in the game, those other two backs, Robbins really, he had nowhere to go on a lot of those runs. I don't know if that's all him, but then on the defense, I mean, wow, is I hope that's just not because of the competition, that they are playing a new FBS team. I hope this is, and I would think so, that this scheme and a lot of the new additions to the team are what's generating a lot of this great defense. We already know that Jacob Robinson was good, so, and some of these other guys, Bywater and Batty, they were their names were called a lot, so that's good. I just hope that depth can hold up throughout the season, and we can continue to see that. And lastly, special teams. I love Rico. I think he is fantastic. I hope he gets the recognition he deserves. I just don't want it to be because BYU's punting this often. It's my favorite player that I never want to see on the field. And they took him to media days and trying to really, I think, help get his name more recognized and get him some of the recognition. But I hope we don't have to see him punt much more for the rest of the season, and that a lot of the issues that we had tonight are things that they can work through and you know, get kind of out of the way by the time we get to some of these other, well, Arkansas and then into Big 12 play. And then one other question I had is it seemed like earlier on in the game they were playing, they were really milking the game clock and taking, snapping it late in the game clock. And I don't really know why that was. It seemed like playing a faster tempo, you're bigger, get more plays in, a bigger team, you should be able to wear down the other team, especially with the altitude. And that slowing down the game and limiting the number of possessions is really going to, especially in a low scoring game, is going to benefit the underdog there. So I couldn't really figure that out. I don't know if that was just because, if that was by design or if they just couldn't get their scheme going. So I don't know. But SUU played Arizona State really close this week, and again, I don't know, like most of the games, I don't think you can take too much away from week one because so much of it is still getting teams together and just getting on the field and feeling things out. But so it's hard to say if Arizona State is just that bad or if Southern Utah really could pose a threat. And truth is, it's probably some of both. And after tonight, I don't think BYU is going to be overlooking them. At least they shouldn't after their performance. So um, anyway, it's disappointing. I mean, we got the win. That's what really matters. And I hope that the team learns some lessons from it. And so if that's what it takes for BYU to learn what they need to and to get things ironed out, well, that's why you have these games at the beginning of the season, is to figure those things out and make those changes. So when you get later in the season, you can avoid some of those penalties and any of those other issues they have. So I'm not gonna overreact too much to this. I think Sam Houston, as we all know, they redshirted a bunch of players last year to make sure that they had more depth coming into FBS, and they were a national championship team not very long ago. So, we knew they're a good team, but and I don't want to say BYU overlooked them, but they definitely came out and played. So the rest of the Big 12, most of it went kind of as expected. The big matchup, the big game of the weekend was TCU Colorado, and it was a wild game. It was a lot of fun. I don't know if I know TCU's got to be really frustrated, and Colorado fans are living high as they should because they were counted out. But I think TCU. I don't think anyone expected them to be as good as they were last year or to repeat that run. And if you think about it, they were in a lot of close games last year. They just managed to pull them out, and they came up just a little short in this game. So I don't know if it's anything worth overreacting to this early in the year. I felt like that eventually they were going to come down to earth anyway. I thought the beginning of their season was lined up for them to rack up a lot of wins, and then once they get into stiffer competition in conference, that they would start losing and showing some cracks. So maybe they just showed a little bit earlier, but I think there's still plenty of time for them to course correct and have a great season, or be kind of a 7-8 win team, which is where I had them. And then Colorado, they should be very excited. They definitely have athletes. I don't think anyone questioned a lot of the talent they brought in. The question was, would they gel? So far, yes. We'll see if that depth holds up throughout the season and what they're able to do. But if nothing else, they should be entertaining. That is for sure. Let's see. Oklahoma 73-0 on Arkansas State. That's not a big headline, but it is a bit surprising. So, not only did they score a lot, but their defense held. Cincinnati racking up 66. Yes, it was Eastern Kentucky, but that's another good sign for them. And then Baylor, that was who knows what happened. Lost to Texas State. They made a run, a push for it at the end of the game. trying to erase that deficit, but it was too much for them. And I didn't watch very much of this game at all, so I don't know what happened. But again, I feel like Baylor was going to be kind of right there with the 7-8 wins. Obviously, they can still get there. I didn't really think they'd be competing in the Big 12, which this is an out of conference game anyway, but losing this definitely hurts. So don't know what's happening there. Houston, I believe they just covered. I think the line was -2.5 for them over UTSA. I actually thought UTSA was going to pull this one out. It was a close game, but Houston won, so good for them. And then Oklahoma State won 27-13. That's kind of what we expected. And that's kind of what I was expecting for BYU tonight. I thought it was going to be, at no point was I truly worried, but I did start getting uncomfortable in the second quarter and the third quarter. I thought it was going to be like a 28-17 type game where, you had to play your starters the whole game, even though you were up. And, but anyway, back to Big 12 teams. Then Texas Tech losing in double overtime to Wyoming. I was watching some of that, and then because it was delayed, it overlapped with the BYU game, and I kind of lost track of it. So I saw them tie it up at the end, and then I didn't see any of the overtime. So wild, because I actually have Texas Tech winning the Big 12, going to the championship game and taking home that trophy. So obviously that's still a possibility, but starting off the season with a loss to Wyoming is not great. And then they get Oregon at home next week. So hopefully they can turn things around. Speaking of teams that need to turn around, Baylor's got Utah. And while I think we learned more about how bad Florida was from that game against Utah, I think we definitely saw that they are at least a more than capable team to go in and compete, and they should not be overlooked. So Baylor and Texas Tech are going to have to do quick turnarounds this week. But anyway, so very exciting weekend. I think I, covered most of the big matchups. We still got the big one tomorrow with, on Sunday, Florida State and LSU. Two teams I typically root against, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think that should be a good one, if nothing else. So, anyway, big takeaways is, BYU's got some work to do. They definitely need to iron out some kinks. Great to see that on offense. Great to see that their defense is looking very solid, is at least definitely improving over last year. But try not to overreact too much. But I definitely hope that they come at this week to fix a lot of those issues. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Big 12. It's always fun to see upsets, but this is the first time in a long time that I've been in a conference where I've had to be invested in these other teams, other than just teams on our schedule, and wanting to see them do well to elevate the status of the conference. And so I'd like to see the Big 12 do better, but again, there's still a lot of season left, so try not to overreact to anything. So anyway, thanks for joining. Forgot to say at the top of the video, please like the video and subscribe. We're just about at 600, working our way to 1,000, where we can monetize. Not that this is going to be a big time money maker, but certainly helps and justifies all the time that I spend doing these, and I can justify it to my wife. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here next week after the next game. Go Cougs.